Why would I make them so uncomfortable?
It probably has to do with your reputation. They feel your methods, your theories are...
Spooky? Do you think I'm spooky?
His face was so blank and expressionless. He didn't even seem human.
I'm not turning my back on anyone!
Have you ever found a metal implant in your body? You checked everywhere?
Mulder, you have to understand!
Put it down!
You put it down first!
Scully!
Gosh, it feels great to be back in Mulder.
Yeah, I mean, for people listening, we didn't skip a beat.
No, that's true, yeah. For all they know, no time has passed.
That's the magic of podcasts.
I had to remind myself what happened on the last episode.
Oh, yeah.
It's the two-parter Joel McHale, Alex Jones one.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I didn't even remind myself. I probably should have done that. I mean, it is a monster of the week, though, so, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't connect. Outside of the fact that Mulder and Scully are back in the FBI with seemingly no repercussions.
No, none at all.
I mean, we went over this and not fight the future, but I want to believe, but still.
Yeah, it's weird they can just get a job like that after Mulder was, arrested by the military for killing somebody
and got
trial. Lethal injection.
And was sentenced to death and then escaped.
Yeah. A good old America.
Go hide out in a cabin in the mountains.
Oh, hey, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to a brand new and free-to-all episode of Fox Mulder is a Maniac.
The further adventures of aging Mulder.
Yeah, old Mulder.
We love him. Old Mulder.
He's so good. Hello to anybody who's just joining us.
Yes.
If you've never heard this show, you can hear it all on our Patreon at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We have other exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, and Spiel Boys, and Star Trek The Next Futurama, and a bunch of other stuff on there. But this is a nice little treat for everybody.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty special episode.
This is a fun episode, so we're willing to share our table scraps.
Yeah, exactly. No, this is the probably the biggest episode of the revival seasons, which is season 10, episode 3, Mulder and Scully meet the were-monster.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why is this special, you ask, to your phones?
It's Darren Morgan.
It's written and directed by Darren Morgan. Now, if that name doesn't ping you, Darren Morgan first appeared in the X-Files as the Fluke Monster.
He was like the brother of a production manager or something, right?
Of another writer,
that's right.
Yeah. And so, perfect little brother role. Real Ted Raimi energy.
Yeah.
Get in that suit.
Put Teddy in the Henrietta suit, yeah.
Yeah, get in the suit, dickhead. It's hot in here. I'm getting dizzy. Suck it up, dickhead. And he went on to write some of the more iconic episodes of the X-Files, including but not limited to
Jose Chung's From Outer Space.
Yep.
That's the big
Humbug.
one.
Humbug. I believe
Did he do Bad Blood?
I believe so. Pretty much any time the X-Files was funny, like weirdly self-aware funny, it was probably Darren Morgan.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, that's not to say there was other, I mean, obviously, like, what's his name over there? Breaking Bad.
He got some.
Vince Gilligan.
Vince Gilligan got some wild ones in there.
Yeah. I think he also did, let's see. He did Blood Humbug in season 2. And then he was a story editor for a shitload.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. All of season 3, it looks like.
Yeah.
I guess he didn't do Bad Blood.
No, yeah, I guess not. In fact, this is what's wild. This is his first written episode since Jose Chung's From Outer Space in season 3.
Oh, that was the other one. He did Clive Bruckman.
Clive Bruckman,
yeah, he did Clive Bruckman. He did the Cockroach one.
Oh,
War of the Chorphages was him, too.
Yeah, which explains why we get some recurring characters in this.
Yeah.
So it's wild to me that he hadn't written an X-Files since season 3. This actually wasn't originally an X-Files episode, Tom. This was originally an episode for Night Stalker, a show that...
Really?
Frank Spotnitz made that only lasted like a season, I think.
Like the old Night Stalker with Darren McGavin?
No, I guess it's a newer. I don't know.
I might be screwing up the name of that show. Somebody listening is probably screaming it at me.
This was. Oh no, there is another Night Stalker. This was. I don't know what this was, but it was a very short-lived TV series, I assume. And it was a script called The M Word, and it never came to be because that show got canceled. And then when he heard about the revival, he basically shoved this on them, and he readjusted everything for Mulder and Scully. The episode stars a couple of notable comedic names. What's his name? Rhys Darby, yeah. Rhys Darby as Guy Mann. Rhys Darby is What We Do in the Shadows, the movie. He was in Flight of the Conchords.
Yeah, and Our Flag Means Death.
And of course, Camille Nanjiani, who got the gig from Darren Morgan because of Nanjiani's podcast, The X-Files Files.
Yeah. Which he didn't cover the whole series.
I know, unlike some other people who perhaps should also
maybe we should get
X-Files.
to be on the X-Files.
Both of them were nervous about it for different reasons. Darby was nervous because I guess he does a lot of improv and he couldn't. But he said like, "Oh, the script was great. I didn't feel the need to." At least that's what he said in interviews. Nanjiani was nervous for obvious reasons,
right?
Because
you can tell. You can tell in his performance.
He didn't want to ruin it. And his quote is, "It's like being in love with a gorgeous woman for 20 years, and then when you finally go out with her, you end up murdering her." Which is a funny comparison.
Yeah, he's not that he's bad in this, but you can tell he feels like he's out of his depth.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm glad he's there. He recorded an episode on the set. I remember listening to that episode because he got to interview everybody, and it's like not great sound quality because they're literally just hanging out on the set.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't listen to that one.
Yeah, according to Darren Morgan, it was really warm in Vancouver when they shot this, and he said, "quote Nobody had any fun filming this episode except for Camille." I mean, it's like, yeah, that makes sense.
It's a shame because it's a really fun episode.
It is. Oh my goodness, it is. Yeah, it's a big love letter. It's got a lot of references, including the hotel manager. He has been in several Darren Morgan episodes. He was the tarot dealer in Clive Bruckman, who gets, I believe, killed at the end. He's in Humbug. He's in Jose Chung's. Like he's in all of Darren Morgan's stuff. So that's a nice reference. We get another reference to Scully being immortal.
Yep. Which is from Clive Bruckman.
Yeah.
Where he says, "Oh, you don't die."
Yep. We get a reference to the Speedo.
Yep.
Mulder's Speedo.
Yep.
From Dwayne Barry. The graveyard, of course, has the names Kim Manners and Jack Hardy. Manners, former director, who is, I believe, died before the revival.
Both are dead, yeah.
Both are dead. Yeah. Jack Hardy was the AD, yeah.
And those quotes on the tombstones, I assume, were things that they would say.
Yep. Yeah, they were. The dog, Dagu, is a reference to Moby Dick, which, of course, Scully's first dog.
Right, she says it reminds me of Queequeg.
Yep.
Did Darren Morgan, he didn't write...
I think he must have, because the other
the
thing
name
is,
of that
course,
episode? Shit.
Quagmire. The Stoners are in this, and they were in Quagmire as well.
One of them is Tyler Levine. Like, he became sort of famous after that episode.
I was so happy to see them. It was one of those references I remember first watching this being like, wow, the Stoners are back. I love the Stoners.
And like when the lady says, "You ever think we should maybe do something with our lives?"
Yeah.
They've just been doing the same thing for 25 years.
Yeah. Oh, this is back to what you were saying. Guy Mann is dressed like the main character in Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
The Night Stalker, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was the show that inspired Chris Carter to make the X-Files.
That's the Darren McGavin one, Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
Yep. Who went on, of course, to play Arthur Dales because...
That's right, he did.
Yep.
In addition to Billy Madison's dad.
Oh, yeah.
And the dad from A Christmas Story.
I can see him playing a lot of dads.
He really slides very easily into that dad role, yeah.
Yeah. And the final and most obvious one is Mulder's ringtone is in fact the X-Files theme for some reason in this episode.
Why not?
Yeah, why the fuck not?
This also has the great line where Scully says to Mulder, the internet is not good for you.
Such a good line. Yeah, I mean, we'll get into Mulder specifically, but like, yeah, I really like this episode. It's such a good, it's such a good, like, I don't know, like, obviously it's a comment on the monster of the week, and it's Mulder going through an existential crisis that we can talk more on. It feels like it's trying to like make up for some stuff. It has one scene, which I'm not going to say it does it perfectly, where Mulder encounters a trans woman and like explains trans
it to
people.
Reese Darby.
Yeah,
he doesn't do perfectly, but he does better than you would have expected from Mulder, because he was pretty conservative in the original series.
I really think the writers picked up on that for the revival.
Right, it was like more of the it was more of the times, and Mulder was never really out of control or out of pocket, but he would make prison rape jokes a lot, for instance.
Right. And I'm sure he's made a homophobic joke or two in the series that we forgot at this point. And so I wonder if that was them just being like, we want to like course correct for Mulder, and it's still not perfect. Because even this episode's like 10 years old now, which is a really bummer realization to have.
More like 8, right? Because this was 2016.
Yeah.
But still.
I'm rounding.
Basically a decade.
Man.
So yeah, when that part came up, I was like white knuckling. I was like, be cool, Mulder.
Yeah. I had remembered that I had actually rewatched this fairly recently. And so, yeah, like they're trying.
Yeah,
it was what you can say about it.
Very much that scene from the Simpsons episode Lisa's Wedding, where Hugh, her fiance, introduces Homer to his parents, and he's just like white knuckling it. And Homer says,
exactly.
Wow, that Octopussy. I must have seen that movie twice. And he's like, wow, that wasn't that bad.
That wasn't that bad. Basically Mulder says he explains being trans to the monster, and the guy goes, that's crazy. And he goes, it's not nuts. It's actually a common medical procedure. And that's pretty much it. That's as far as it goes in him defending it. But that's, again, better than it would have been in the 90s.
Yeah, they want to, we're supposed to like Mulder. So
yeah.
They want him to be on the right side of history for things.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's get into it.
Yeah,
right?
Let's do it, man.
So our first segment, for people who are new, is World's Luckiest Detective. We found that Mulder isn't exactly the best detective, it turns out.
Right.
And a lot of his answers come to him rather than him finding them.
Right. They're either delivered to him, or he pulls the right answer out of his ass, out of the ether in his ass, or the monster and or killer just doesn't care about being caught, so it will just do its murders right in front of them.
Right.
It's usually one of those 3 ways that he's lucky.
In this case, it's all of the above.
Yeah, kind of.
I mean, we'll go into Mulder guessing about the monster because he's a lot more cynical. But they start with just a drawing of the monster, a perfect police sketch of the monster. Well,
except it has a third eye, which is a fun running bit where everybody's like, no, it looks nothing like it. It had 2 eyes.
Yeah.
but it's like, it looks exactly like the monster.
For people who don't know the episode, by the way, it is...
oh, yeah, we should have explained the X-File.
Yeah, it's Mulder is investigating a were-lizard, a giant lizard man who is attacked
allegedly
a group of people.
Killing people in this town, yeah.
Yeah, including Camille Nanjiani, who plays Animal Control. And Mulder essentially confronts this creature and learns that it's actually the opposite. He was a lizard monster his whole life, who was bitten by a human and now becomes a human. And it's a series of bits about him like losing control and having to get a job to worry about his mortgage.
Right. Oh man, it's so funny.
Yeah, and it's just about kind of like this guy treating like, civilization like it's a madness, basically. And like, his quest, He gets a dog. He eats fast food, so on and so forth, when all he wants to do is just be naked in the woods.
He lies about having sex with somebody. Like, he's just...
with Scully.
Yeah. He's just gliding into all, like, the crappy things about being a human and crappy human behavior.
Yeah. And that's kind of the episode. There's a little more to it that we'll get into, because it reflects, like, Mulder realizing the absurdity of his life's work.
Yes.
Because in the end, it's like, is it any different? A lizard that turns into a person versus a person who turns into a lizard.
Yeah, Scully
it's all
literally
stupid.
says, what's the difference?
Yeah. So, yeah, the first thing is we get the picture of the monster, and then they stay at a hotel that's just the same hotel the monster's
Where the
staying
monster's
at.
staying, yeah.
The owner is a weird pervert who spies on people and happens to see the monster change through,
but
through
also
the people.
he's drinking rubbing alcohol, so
He sure is.
his eyewitness testimony can't really be taken into account.
Well, when has that stopped Mulder? But
That's true.
Mulder pretty much, he's pretty much sleeping next to, like, a few rooms next to the goddamn monster.
Yeah, in his
Hears
Speedo.
the commotion. Yep. And then investigates the room. That's his first lead, which I can't overstate, is literally just right next to him in the hotel.
Yeah, he just went next door. Oh, the monster's here.
He gets
I
a
guess,
photo of
another case cracked, Scully.
yeah, pretty much. He does so little, and this is another case of Scully.
He's so checked out, and he's so
He
upset.
is. He finds the guy's his antipsychotic meds, so he goes to the therapist, and the therapist basically says, like, "Oh, I told him to go stroll in the cemetery when he's down."
Mhm.
So that's his next lead, although he doesn't need it because Scully just walks by a store
And
with
the monster's in there
as
working.
Yeah, as his human form. And just calls Mulder and is like, "Yeah, I found him."
This is a very small town.
It really is. But Mulder,
It's like a
he gets
town.
away
It's like
there.
one of those towns with 2 streets.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because he says in his story, like, I got a job at a cell phone store down the street from the hotel. So yeah, it's one of those cases where, like, the monster is always within a block of Mulder in the whole episode. And, like, because it's a silly episode, they kind of know it's convenient, like, it's not.
Right, it doesn't really matter in this one, but we do have to count it all in the luckiest detective category.
100%. Mulder goes to the cemetery and the guy is just there.
It's just there.
And then he just
Just tells him, because the monster doesn't care about being caught, so he just tells him his whole story.
Yeah. What I think is even more lucky when you stand back from it, because the twist of this episode is at the start, you know, if you recall, he was bitten by a human. Spoilers, Camille Nanjiani is actually the villain.
Yeah.
He has been killing people. He's like a weird cannibal.
Yeah, he's garroting them with his animal catching lariat and then chewing their necks open because he's a maniac.
Yeah. Scully figures it out all on her own while Mulder is passed out in the cemetery.
Mulder's passed out on Kim Manner's grave.
Yeah. And just solves the entire thing.
Drank like an entire bottle of Glenfiddich.
Yep. Oh God, it's amazing. I feel like this is another meta joke. Basically, she does the thing where she gets attacked and Mulder has to run to help her, like in the old seasons, but when he gets there, she's like, I got it.
Yeah,
and she's already cuffed him.
She has easily whooped his ass and has him in custody.
Yeah, so Mulder
Although it's a hell of a
does
stunt
nothing.
when she gets lassoed. Like, he pulls her through a bunch of cages and animal tanks, so you totally think she is going to be in some kind of danger, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When he gets there, she's just, no, I got it, it's fine.
So when you stand
I think
back
I'm going
from
to take this dog.
Right.
Anyway.
What happened was a completely unrelated monster.
Yep.
Was happening.
Incidental
at the
monster.
Yeah. Phenomenal odds. Like, that this monster just happened to also be in this town that this other serial killer was. And that's why they were able to actually solve the serial killer, because the monster drew attention. If the monster wasn't there, they never would have came here.
Nope.
There's no way Mulder would have came for just a serial killer.
He barely comes for the monster in this one.
And so basically what happens is Mulder spends the whole time with this completely unrelated thing while Scully does all the work of actually solving the murders. So yeah. I mean, I'd say that's pretty lucky.
That's all I had for luckiest detective.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay.
He's really riding that 4-leaf clover this week.
Yeah. My God.
Just has it tucked into his Speedo.
It's hard because...
For luck, Scully.
Beautiful Speedo.
Mm-hmm. That's his playoff Speedo. He never takes it off when he's on an investigation.
Yeah, I don't think he takes it off at all, ever. I think that's just the final layer.
Until it disintegrates, and then he just gets a new one.
And then he has a closet full of them.
Just a closet full of them, yeah. Like Batman's suits. Just... He walks down into a cave and opens this huge vault, and it's just Speedos.
And meth. He
Like
gets his
Alfred
meth.
walks downstairs. The Speedo today, sir.
You know, Mulder in another world could have easily been Batman.
He kind of is a version of Batman in this.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, if he was born in Gotham and he was born in the right condition, he would either be Batman or the Riddler, I feel like. He'd be one or the other. He'd be on one side of that cape.
He'd be chasing Gentleman Ghost all over Gotham City. Scully and Superman. When you believe that there's a crocodile man that lives in the sewers here, and I'm going to find him.
Without going into too much detail, did you see Longlegs yet?
No.
Okay. All I'll say is I also ship him with the lead character in Longlegs. And once you see it, you'll know. For people who've watched Longlegs, they're probably like, oh yeah, they'd be perfect together. Terrible for everybody else.
Yeah.
I guess it's time. Speaking of terrible for everybody else.
It's really think the ending of Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
You got to keep these two apart.
Yeah, pretty much.
Ghost or the Gazarian is going to destroy us all.
Some portal will open with them together.
Yeah, definitely. Like a fucking glass palace to the hell sphere will appear on top of a building.
Should we do it? Should we crack this nut?
Man. It's time, folks. It's time to put on your Speedo and locate the secret door in your motel room, because there's one in every motel room. And creep through it and spy on your partner while she sleeps, because it's time for Mulder After Dark.
Oh,
Bring that sax into that crawl space with you.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. For people who don't know, this is the main event. This is where we just talk about how unhinged Mulder is in this episode.
Everything wrong with him. This is a kind of I don't know where else to put it, because it's not really... It's weird for Mulder, okay? The episode starts with Mulder actually closing some cases for the first time.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, he's going through all the old Monster of the Week cases and realizing this was just ice. This was a publicity stunt for a store. This was some frat kid prank. He's just like closing all of these cases finally. He normally doesn't. He solves very few cases in the X-Files.
The inciting incident is basically Mulder got into work. They're like getting the office back, and he sat down and said, like, I should go through these old cases. I never read my old cases. And then I feel like he started going through them, and he was like, I wonder what happened with this. And then, as Scully said, the internet's not good for him. I think Mulder started Googling.
Oh, yeah.
And then he realized, like, he's closing a bunch of cases without ever leaving his desk, because he's just slowly realizing everything was bullshit.
It was all hoaxes or misinterpreted natural events.
Yeah. Or a mascot for a landscaping
That was
company.
the funniest one. The Rock Man.
Yeah, it's so good.
At first I thought it was caused by this Rock Man, but it turns out that was just like a Michelin Man.
I want to see that episode, like the original
I want to see
Rock
all
Man.
of these episodes where he goes. Yeah. We talked about it before, but like, we only see the cases that Mulder shows up at where there actually was a ghost or a Boogans. We don't see the 95% of the other cases where he drives them out to Bumblefuck, West Virginia, and it's just nothing. It's there was not a Mothman. It was some kid hit his head.
You miss 100% of the shots, Tom.
What's up?
100% of the shots you don't take.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He
follows every tip. Every tip he gets, he drives out there. That's why his expense reports are so insane.
Yeah. And that's really where his crisis starts, is like the realization that he has nothing. And like this season, I feel like there's been a little of that where they're like, we've been doing this for so fucking long. And the last, the season 9 was a little of that where they're like they finally got Skinner to levitate in season 9, where they're finally realizing like, we've been doing this for so long and we have nothing, no evidence of anything. And Mulder is just so depressed at the start of this. He's throwing his pencils at the I Want to Believe poster. And I have to note, he's an amazing shot.
He throws those things hard too, like Gambit. Yeah.
And it makes me wonder that I suspect that Mulder is a throwing knives guy.
Or darts.
Yeah.
Darts, I mean, both would make sense. Mulder's definitely a knife guy. But darts figures into like that stat boy aspect of his, like he loves baseball statistics and basketball statistics.
So he's this, for the first part, he's basically becomes the skeptic. He becomes Scully. Also, and he's so mopey.
I can see Mulder learning darts because he thinks women thinks it's cool. Check this out. That's like his move to pick up women at the bar.
Think it's cool.
Say what?
Like other guys think it's cool too. He probably does it for friends. Remember his basketball game where he was playing basketball with a bunch of strangers that we never saw again?
Right, because
you weren't invited to that.
He didn't call anybody. He just shows up with a ball and waits to see if there's anyone playing.
I think he shows up with a ball and then lets the air out of the other balls. So he's like, well, guys, I have a ball, but I have to play.
He just shoots them. Shoots the balls.
Yeah, shoots the balls.
Oh, well, looks like we have to use my ball.
Scully asks him if he's been taking his meds.
What a question.
That's quite, I was like, what meds is he taking?
I mean, not that sounds, unreasonable for Mulder.
No, yeah.
Hasn't been mentioned ever before.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. He says, quote, Scully, Charles Fort spent his entire life researching natural and scientific anomalies, which he published 4 books, all of which I know by heart. And I was like, yeah. I feel like we've talked about this before. Yeah, Mulder probably memorizes books. He talks like he does.
He memorizes his X-Files. We know that for a fact.
Yeah. When he shows up on the first crime scene,
he's so bitter that he's actually making sense.
Yeah.
It's like a huge Mulder After Dark red flag.
Yeah. He says, probably took a midnight hike in the nude, got attacked by a wolf or a lion or a bear, maybe all at the same time. That's how I'd like to go out. Which is...
hell of a thing to say.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the joke is there.
Like your first week back on the job.
Yeah. Mulder's got some darkness in him.
He's so upset. They get there, all these people say, that was a mountain lion. Or wolves, Scully, it could have been wolves. Like, he's so upset that he's making the most sense he's ever made at one of these crime scenes. Like, yeah, he's right. It probably was a mountain lion.
Yeah, he's completely right.
Yeah.
It's so lucky, another world's luckiest detective, that it's not this, because otherwise he would have just given up.
Right, that's another thing I had flagged, is he is so... Scully says to him at some point, is like, are you just not interested in solving these deaths? And the answer is no.
No, he's not.
Never has been.
No. And he gets... Well, we'll talk about that, but later Guy Mann has his number. Really has his number. Because I guess I'll say it here. He says, you just want to arrest me. You just want to arrest every monster, more or less, is that what he says. And it was like, yeah.
Yes, it's true. He arrested the Fluke Man.
Yeah, that is what Mulder wants to do.
He took the Fluke Man to jail.
He has no scientific, to scientifically understand these things.
No, he just wants
to lock them up.
Yeah, he just wants to punch monsters and aliens.
Yeah.
So, and there's a very revealing thing in that first crime scene where when it's in the part where Scully's asking, well, aren't you interested in like figuring out who's doing this? And he said, oh, Scully. I would have just
I have it written down.
Yeah, he left profiling long before monsters.
Yep. If you send one serial killer, you see them all, and I'm like, that is like a really irresponsible thing to say in the FBI. He's like, nah, I don't profile silicon. And I know it's a running joke in this.
Long before I gave up monsters. Really?
Yeah. He's so nihilistic. And he's like, he's just...
He's ready to be torn apart by woodland creatures.
Yeah. I believe the term is quiet quitting. He's quiet quitting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's sandbagging until they ask him to leave. Until they reassign him the death penalty.
Yeah.
Mulder's like, I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Oh, man. Yeah. Going back to punching monsters, it just occurred to me, how excited do you think Mulder was when Blade came out in theaters?
Oh, man. He probably was arrested for stalking Wesley Snipes because he was trying to figure out whether or not he was really a vampire.
Yeah.
No, he's a daywalker. You'll never be able to tell.
But that is ultimately what Mulder wants to be, right?
He wants to be Blade.
Yeah.
He tried to dress like Blade in the virtual reality episode.
Yeah, he sure did.
Sleeveless shirt and his sunglasses.
That might have been the height of his life. like getting to, for your job, dress up like Blade. Like, when does that ever happen? In the FBI, no less.
He gets to dress up like the Matrix.
I'm surprised he didn't do that when he goes to the goth club for the vampire one. Like, he should have.
Oh, Blade hadn't come out yet.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
We're still several years from Blade. We hadn't yet connected vampires and the leather rave scene. Although we should have. It was a mistake. It was right there.
It's obvious. Yeah.
Underworld came out. You're like, oh, of course.
Yeah, that's what they would look like. I mean, it makes sense. Like, if you want to bite people, go for goths, right? Because goths are probably into blood stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's hard to, like...
It's the lady at the vampire bar.
Yeah.
Says, what about AIDS?
AIDS.
AIDS.
She's like, what the fuck are you doing at this bar, man?
Get out of here, you fucking square.
Cop. Yeah.
You tourist. Don't go into a blood bar, Mulder. Marty Mulder. He's using that alias.
He must be.
He is. And when he calls the blood bank, he uses the alias Marty Mulder.
He does. Oh my God. That's where Marty Mulder came from.
I think it's the first time, yeah. He uses Marty Mulder.
Incredible alias.
At least George Hale, you have to dig a little bit to figure that one out.
Yeah, it's like a reference.
Yeah. Marty Mulder is just his name with a different first name. Most people don't know his first name.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, I guess it's weird because it's like he was only allowed one fake name. Like, you either change your first or your last name. And that is kind of like a Sophie's
Facebook
choice
account.
Right. But you look at his name, you're like, which half of my name is the most distinct? It's like, man.
Tough. Fox Mulder.
Speaking of, did you notice the
with that name?
Yeah. Did you notice the Fox reference?
Of course, yeah. He peeks through the fox's face.
Yeah. We get Mulder trying to use a phone, which is played for laughs. So it's I mean, it's just it's pretty amazing.
He's such an old man with the phone. It's incredible.
It's amazing that he's using a camera app to take continuous pictures. And Camille even says, like, take a video. Like, I written that down, and then he finally he says it. It's such a good idea that Mulder's desire to see a monster get proof is directly like battling his inability to understand smartphones. Because it's like, get a GoPro, man. He keeps saying it's a new camera or a new camera app. And I'm like, you mean the camera? Like,
he doesn't know.
Perfect.
He doesn't know. He has no idea.
It's such a good idea for Mulder, for old Mulder.
Yeah. It's like a dad trying to decipher Pokemon.
Yeah. Mulder sleeps in his Speedo, we mentioned.
Of course he does, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, he sleeps.
Final layer.
This is one of the rare times we see him sleeping.
Yeah.
Normally,
you're
he's
right.
On way too much meth.
I think that's what happens shortly because he gets a charge, right? He finds out about the room.
Right, he hears somebody scream monster and it activates him. It's like a sleeper agent.
Yeah.
It's like the Manchurian Candidate.
He snatches the antipsychotic, which I get it, it's evidence.
Yeah.
But at first I was like, don't steal meds, Mulder. That's somebody's meds. But no, it makes sense. But what's probably the biggest thing I pinged is, so he learns that the hotel they're in, the manager has a series of serial killer tunnels through the rooms where he's spying on
it's an
people,
8mm
including Scully.
motel.
Yeah, including himself, as we learn, that he is specifically spying on watching Mulder's taint as he sleeps. And Mulder says to him, when he confronts him, he says, look, I'm not going to report you. When one checks into an establishment such as this, one expects the manager to be a peeping Tom. And the matter is closed.
I'm like, Mulder, I kind of feel like you should report him. Like, maybe you should.
But think about Mulder. And like the sheer amount of, like, he probably watches so much porn that he's just like, yeah, this is just what happens. Like, I feel like...
Right, like he watches porn and makes direct eye contact with the animal heads and anything he thinks is the secret peeping porthole in the motel room, he just makes direct eye contact with it while he's watching porn. Right.
He's just like, listen, as a pervert, it is my duty to protect other perverts. Yeah. We got to stick together. We're a dying breed as perverts.
The thin pervert line.
Yeah. Yeah, when Scully says, Mulder, the internet was not good for you, I didn't even begin to think about porn.
It's an extremely broad statement. It covers a lot of ground.
Yeah, just the porn alone, I feel like, I don't know what it's like.
Right, I feel like he'd be a mummy at this point. Like, he'd be totally emaciated in the corner of his apartment because he would just never leave. It's like when all the Bigfoot porn.
Yeah.
It's like the videos so many Bigfoot videos, Dave.
Yeah, like the videos you see of when they dump a bunch of like toys on a dog and they freak out and they don't know what to do. That's what it would be. Like Mulder would have an aneurysm the moment he found online pornography. He just wouldn't know what to do with all that. He'd log it. I feel like he'd go through and like write down time codes.
Oh yeah, he has like a whole spreadsheet of all the porn he's encountered online.
Yeah.
It's a staggering tome at this point.
I feel like he'd copy it all to VHS so he could watch it at home. I like to think Mulder never got past VHS.
Right. He doesn't know what DVD is.
Yeah. He just doesn't seem like a guy
it's
who'd use a DVD.
It's on a disc. This is a CD. You can't fit a movie in here. Where do you put the film?
But going back to that line, I do have to also point out, if he says he victim blames, he says no one.
You should expect to be spied on in a motel. I'm like, should you?
Well, he says an establishment such as this. So I'm wondering also, like, what is this like a really bad motel? Like, can the FBI not afford a better place for them to stay?
That I don't have a trouble believing because it's the government. And Mulder already burns so much on his expenses, so they're probably going to be like, Skinner's like, Mulder, you're staying in a Thunderbird Lodge, okay?
Right. He does have doesn't he get out of that? There's some car product placement later, and he's driving. I should have written it down, like this beautiful brand new car, which I assume is a rental
or a motor pool car,
it's Scully's car,
or it's Scully's car.
He borrowed her car in the previous episodes.
Did he?
Or in the movie. He borrowed her car in the movie in the last one.
I think we've talked about this before, but I feel like Mulder doesn't own a car.
No, I don't think so.
He can drive, and we see him driving a lot, but it's never his car.
Yeah,
he's taking cars from the motor pool, or he's renting them with his FBI expense account.
He's one of those guys who's like, I never needed a car. And it's like, actually, you did many times.
Well, you don't really need a car if you live in Georgetown.
Yeah.
Right, but you're in the FBI. They make you drive. Well, then they just give me a car.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that.
You know how cars work. You go outside and there's a car.
Yeah.
And there's a car there.
You know how you just like, you just get a car whenever you need a car. Like, yeah.
Take a car, leave a car, you know.
When you go to somebody's house and they have a take a car, leave a car bowl full of keys, Mulder, that's not what that is for.
Oh, I love the idea of Mulder at a swingers party.
Stumbling into a key party and for some reason not knowing what it is.
Yeah. But this is where I think Mulder took his whatever he takes, because he starts doing both sides of the argument with Scully.
Right, he doesn't let her
Scully's
actually
delighted.
answer, which is a pretty good scene.
Yeah. He talks to the therapist, who also gives him an antipsychotic, which is a nice little detail.
I don't know what I don't think we see what he actually prescribes him, but we're assuming it's an antipsychotic.
Yeah, it's a little therapist after dark, because he also takes something himself.
He takes Guy Mann's pills himself, which is Klonopin.
Yeah, so he's just a fucking party animal.
Yeah. He's just gonna party tonight. He's gonna lick a lot of tables tonight.
Yeah. So the other big thing I have is basically his encounter with the were monster and what it does to him. Because Mulder is driven
really
to
shatters
drink.
him.
Yeah. Mulder rarely drinks. He drinks a few times.
That's true. It is not as common as you might expect.
Yeah. And he hears this story and he's so mad that the story is stupid. Like every time he keeps looking, he literally says, "I'm just trying to look for some internal logic" to the guy.
Right. And it's it's almost a script note.
Yeah.
Because that's what, it's like, well, yeah, the thing can be fantastical, but it needs to have some kind of internal logic, or else it's all just random nonsense.
Yeah. He's basically faced with someone who is just calling him out. Like, he tells him this dumb story, and Mulder's like, "It just seems so stupid." And he's like, "Yeah, it's silly." And Mulder says, "Yeah, how do you think I feel? It's my life." And Mulder goes, "Well, it's my life too."
Yeah. He's
You
really
and me,
bummed.
we're the same.
And it's when he says, "I want to believe," it's like the inflection on it is like so much different and full of such despair, because he's like, I want to believe.
Yeah. He's faced with the dumbest version of a monster.
The most absurd thing.
Where nothing makes sense. And then that monster says, ultimately, "You just want to fucking arrest me, don't you?" And which is true. And so it's like, it's perfect. This monster has he just breaks Mulder completely and leaves him. And Mulder just gets drunk alone in the graveyard because he is so thoroughly broken. He calls Scully later and says, "Maybe I was just a fool, Scully. Maybe I've always been."
But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's
he's
when we hear his
deleting the
X-Files
photos.
ringtone. Yeah, he's deleting all the photos, yeah.
It's just a perfect arc for Mulder. Mulder having to be faced with the fact that what he does is so silly. And then I find it genuinely sweet at the end, where he actually gets to he sees the monster. He shakes Guy Mann's hand and he turns into the lizard monster and runs into the woods.
Yeah, it gives him the peace of mind and hope that he was like a lot of Darren Morgan's episodes are like that.
Pretty sweet.
Like Clyde Bruckman obviously is a very sad episode in addition to being funny, but it has its own profoundness or its own profundity. And Jose Chung's in particular, the way that what that episode is actually about and what it's saying is like pretty. It's not like super deep, but it's like it's kind of heavy. There's some emotional weight to it.
For sure. I would argue in this is probably the worst thing to happen to Mulder. And what I mean by that is Mulder has everything reaffirmed by the end.
Yeah.
Mulder he starts this case going like, maybe I'm just following a bunch of like
right. He was so close to his epiphany.
Yeah. And he runs into the dumbest monster. Yeah. And Mulder is like, "This is the dumbest fucking thing." And then at the end, it's like, "It's okay, Mulder, though, because it's real."
Because it was real.
So, never doubt yourself, no matter how dumb it is. It's real, Mulder.
Yep. He really, oh man, you're right. It's the worst possible thing that could have happened to him.
Yeah. Do you have anything? I have something for Scully.
No, I think that's all I have for Mulder on this part. What's your Scully after dark?
It's not a big one, but she does steal a dog.
She does.
And like, when you think about it, like, we know that dog's journey, but she doesn't. And like, that could have been like a family's dog that got out and was caught. And she's just
Right.
like, this is my dog now.
Caught by a maniac, serial killing animal control person.
Yeah. But again, there's no tag on it.
No, I mean,
it's not a big deal.
Not that big a deal.
It's just funny because I was like, she stole that dog. It's weird.
What was going to happen to the dog? It was just going to sit there in that cage because Kumail got busted. He appears to be the only animal control officer.
Yeah, and it seems like that's the only animal there. So it's not a big thing. It's just like, yeah.
But she does just steal the dog.
Yeah. I do have more things to say about Scully, but later. So we could talk about fireable offenses.
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't have anything written here.
I have one.
Okay.
And Mulder goes to the cemetery and starts interrogating Guy Mann without identifying himself as an FBI agent.
Oh, you're right. That's really that you can't do that.
No.
Especially since, like,
I mean, not in that capacity. Like, if you were, rules are different if you're like undercover and shit, but he's not. He's not undercover.
I mean, imagine the version of offense. Like, here's the thing. There was a murder, right? At the start of this, several. And Mulder is faced with this guy at the cemetery who tells him that he thinks he's a lizard man. And then he leaves, and Mulder just gets drunk and doesn't pursue him.
Mulder, we should have hit that harder in the last section. Mulder gets drunk in a cemetery in the middle of the day.
Yep.
Like, to the point of passing out in front of the headstone.
Yes. Instead of pursuing a suspect. Like, that's also key, is that this man just told him the most batshit thing.
Right.
And somehow that, like, hypnotized Mulder into giving up.
After
and just letting this guy go.
He saw Guy Mann at the scene of one murder. And in his batshit story, Guy admits to being at the scene of the previous murder.
Yeah.
In the woods.
Like, isn't there a world where this guy is in fact the murderer?
Right. He may have been the murderer. Mulder.
Right, because even at the end, Mulder doesn't believe he's like, he still doesn't want to believe his story, even when she catches the other guy. And Mulder has to have a moment where he goes like, it means he was a were-monster. But it means that before that point, this guy who knew all the details of the murders just got away still. And it's like, surely he must be involved somehow.
Right.
Right? Like, if you don't believe him, that's even more reason to pursue him.
Yeah.
He basically...
At the very least, you'd try to eliminate him as a suspect.
Yeah, it's that he doesn't just get drunk in a cemetery during the day. He gets drunk in the cemetery during the day, during technically an FBI pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, technically he is... Yeah, on the job with a... Yeah, that's actually pretty big. Huh?
Yeah, that's a pretty big fireable offense, getting hammered in the cemetery in the middle of the day and letting your only suspect walk away.
Right, like, imagine
Kumail's not a suspect at this point.
Right, imagine if, like, Toombs was a better, like, smooth talker. And it's like, is it...
That is not Toombs' strong point.
No, thank God it's not.
Yeah.
But, apparently Mulder could be just talked into... not pursuing.
We know this. All you need to do to take Mulder out forever is tell him there's an alien in the back of that van.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's actually pretty huge now. I'm thinking about it more and more, where I'm just like, yeah, that was a suspect. If not a suspect, a witness, who's clearly like...
Yeah, the only suspect.
Who's taking antipsychotic medications that you took.
That you stole.
So you know he's not on them anymore.
From his ransacked room.
Yeah. Yeah, so like there's
So he clearly had some kind of violent episode in that room.
And Mulder just lets him go because he's able to convince him he's a
Mulder.
It's really again at the beginning Mulder's like, it's probably the simplest explanation. It's like, well, the simplest explanation is that this guy did it.
Yeah.
He's off his meds and he had Wow, I didn't even think about that.
Yep.
All you have to do to get away from Mulder is say you're a lizard monster.
Yeah, is tell him a really upsettingly stupid story about how you're a monster and get him all bummed out.
Yeah.
He's decided. I love that he has decided that criminal profiling is as worthless as hunting Sasquatch.
It's really funny that he decides that. At the same time, he is talked into letting this guy go, who could be a serial killer. That's a great combination of things to happen. Because, like, clearly, like, yeah, you sounds like you need to do some criminal profiling again, Mulder. Like, criminal profiling probably would have helped in this episode.
It might have assisted, yeah.
Yeah, even the version that happens, like, they might have caught Camille earlier, you know? Because it's also like, I don't know. It's pretty obvious it's him, but I guess we're watching the flashbacks where you can kind of see, like, that guy's wearing,
if you're
like,
paying
an outfit.
attention, you can see it's him pretty clearly.
Yeah. Should we name the enabler?
Yeah, it's Scully.
It's huge, Scully.
Yeah.
So, like, going back into what we just said of all the things Mulder did, Scully's not only encouraging Mulder, she's charmed by it.
Right.
She says,
she's
"This is how
delighted
I
to
like
have
my
him back.
Mulder."
Yeah, this is how I like my Mulder. Crazy.
Yeah,
I don't like Mulder sad. I like Mulder manic.
Yeah. She's like, "Come on, Mulder. Do something. Get drunk in a cemetery
I
for
like
me.
my
This
Mulder's
is my kink."
vibrating.
Yeah. And when you think about it, like, yeah, Scully is clearly like, yeah, Mulder, you go off and, like, she even says as much to him. She was like, I didn't want to disturb you because you were doing your weremonster stuff. So I caught the,
Right,
the
so
bad
I just
guy.
went ahead and solved the case. But so you go, it's like I want to go play outside and I'll take care of the chores.
Yeah. She's like, go do your fucking monster stuff, which is pretty wild because Scully doesn't know that the monster could also kill people. So it's like she's just letting Mulder fight this monster on his
Or
own.
he's going to shoot a man to death thinking he's a monster.
Yes. She's her first question is, Mulder, did you take your meds? And then she's like, whatever, it's fine.
What meds, Scully?
Please,
What's
Scully,
he
what
taking?
meds?
For what? For
We
what?
need to
For what
know.
affliction?
Yeah. She doesn't seem concerned. She's just happy that he's out of his mind. That he's ranting in the hotel room about were-lizards. Boy.
I like my Mulder schizophrenic.
Yeah. My God, Scully.
Oh,
She's
man.
like, you fuck best this way. You got that crazy energy.
when you're looking at the full moon and sweating.
Yeah.
There's evil afoot tonight, Scully. Let's go peg on Arthur Conan Doyle's grave. The game's
Oh,
afoot.
you know Scully's down to peg.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She's pulled
That all-
beads out of Mulder's ass for sure.
Oh, of course.
Not in a sexual manner, though. It was an emergency. It was an emergency
Oh, yeah, he
situation.
called her at 4 a.m. She is a doctor, too.
Yeah, she's a doctor who was in a medical
Yeah.
capacity.
Oh, my God. I didn't think about that. But yeah, 100% Mulder has called her when he didn't want to go
Mulder
to the
has
ER.
definitely called her out because of sexual misadventure.
Yeah.
Scully gets stuck in the vacuum again. Mulder, all right.
I'll be right over.
Did you turn off the vacuum at least? Oh, no. I
Mulder,
figure
I'm at my
stuck.
nephew's
I might as
birthday
well.
party.
I might as well enjoy myself.
Oh, amazing. Well, I guess that brings us all the way to Crazy Like a Fox.
Oh, man. Folks, this is where we assign a numerical rating from 1 to 10 to grade Agent Fox Mulder's behavior. 1 being calm, cool, collected, responsible adult, a representative of the federal government. 10 being none of those things.
Yep. This was a lot lower than it was in my mind before we started talking.
It gets a
'Cause
little
him getting-
higher.
Yeah. Letting a suspect go to get drunk in a cemetery in the middle of the day.
Pretty huge, yeah.
That's because that's technically putting other people in danger
Yes.
because he just doesn't know what that guy's going to do.
Yeah. Also, he's chasing this guy, but not really to determine whether he's murdered anybody, to determine if he really is a monster.
Yeah, he does not
He's
care about
so
the
uninterested
murders.
in Salt. Like, he does nothing to investigate Kumail. Like
really
and
is
Scully
just
solves it
coasting.
very quickly because she does.
Yeah. He's just bored at work,
Yeah.
basically.
He's
Only-
quiet quitting. Yeah, like he's sandbagging it. He's so bummed.
Yeah.
He found out Sasquatch isn't real.
Yeah. And now he's useless.
He's just watching Harry and the Hendersons and a single tear rolls down his cheek. It's like when
I
kids
wanna
find out
say-
Santa's not real.
Yeah. Way, way too late for Mulder. Mulder has investigated Santa, I feel like.
That should have been an X-Files episode.
It should have been. Like, I feel like Mulder, like, if he was ever in Alaska and he saw a dude with a beard and red, he might follow that guy for a few blocks
He's
just to be
followed
sure.
more than one department store Santa.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me the source of your magic.
You think like a 6?
I'm thinking a 6, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're right in that puts us in the putting other people in danger thing, which
It's more abstract?
technically letting Guy Mann go is putting people in danger because he's the prime suspect for all Mulder
Yeah.
knows, and he just told
It's
him
also-
an insane story.
It's also putting himself in danger because he knows there's a killer and he thinks maybe it's this guy, and he gets drunk in a cemetery where anybody can just,
It's in the
curl
middle of
him.
the day, but yeah.
Yeah. But and so, yeah, that's all to say. 6 is, I think, solid. A solid 6.
Yeah, it's technically because of I was going to add on to letting Guy Man go, and also less technically because he's letting the actual killer still run around because he's not bothering to do any profiling or
No.
any investigative work beyond I think this guy's a monster and I'm going to prove it.
Yeah.
It's Tombs all over again.
Yeah.
Like, you have all the evidence to put him in jail, but Mulder's like, no, they need to believe he's 150 years old or it's worthless.
Yeah. We always knew this, right?
Yes,
Where it's
that was the 3rd episode, so we've known this since season 1.
Where the moment in any episode that we don't see, he finds out it's just a person, he leaves.
He's so sad. He's so pissed.
Yeah. Some like grieving mother is like, but what about my kid? Hello,
Who?
sir? And he's just in the car,
Yeah, he's
leaving,
already
says
leaving.
nothing.
Yeah, he's already booking tickets to go see an electric turtle down in Louisiana or some shit.
Turns out to be just a turtle caught in power lines.
It's just a turtle with like racing stripes painted on it and like day glow paint.
Well, shit, that's
I
an
think
episode.
we did it. I think that's a sewed.
Yeah. Stay tuned. Next episode for
Home Again.
which is not a sequel to Home.
No.
It does have one of the wildest guest stars the X-Files has ever had. Do you recall who's in it?
No, actually, I don't.
It's only wild in that I was like, why? Tim Armstrong's in it. In a lot of it.
Oh.
Rancid's Tim Armstrong.
Sure.
And it's just really, it's like, oh, I guess. Does he act? I don't think he acts.
It's maybe just like a wish list thing that they were doing.
He's not bad in it. I watched it fairly recently.
I don't think I actually watched this one, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you'll know him when you see him, or rather, you'll know him when you hear him.
Yeah, I
Where
know.
you're like, oh, yeah.
I can pick Tim Armstrong out of a lineup.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll know. Are you
Yeah,
a
where he's
drunk
just
Englishman?
Every line, Mulder's like, I'm sorry. Can
what
we
are
write?
you saying?
Can you write it down? Just write it down.
Give him the boot.
Yeah, so thanks for listening, everybody. If you're interested, again, patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. GAMEFULLY unemployed. Those exclusive podcasts are on there. We also watch movies every Friday night with our patrons. There's all sorts of fun stuff.
Frequently
over
we
there.
watch X-Files. Well, not frequently, but every so often we watch X-Files episodes.
Yeah, we do.
And the
Check
movies.
that
I'm
out.
sure we've watched at least one of the movies.
At least one. We should do them again.
We should definitely do that second one. That really wasn't
Yeah.
good.
That's
Really wasn't very good.
Yeah, it's a real bummer.
Oy. You can listen to us cover that on the Patreon. Or was that a free episode? I don't even remember.
I don't know, man. I think that was on the Patreon.
Okay.
Because I think we had a free one. I don't know.
We
Who can
lose
tell?
track. How many of these have we done? 1,000?
Something like that.
How long we've been doing this? 15 years?
Yeah. And we'll do it for another 15.
Oh, yeah. Until we're in a cemetery next to drunk Mulder.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one can only hope that's what heaven is.
Yeah. Heaven's a place on earth, Dave.
Artwork for Fox Mulder is a Maniac is produced by Starlene Hodge. You can see more of her work at starlenearts.com or on twitter.com as StarleneX.